What's going on, everybody? Stay tuned to the end of the video and I'll be doing my very first giveaway. And welcome back to Analog Bebop. It's been a while. After my last video, I sort of decided that it was time to take a little bit of a hiatus from film photography, mainly just due to some personal reasons. And by personal reasons, I mean the deep state of depression that I fell into because of the spike in film prices. As you know, this has been a very difficult time for film photographers, but you know, I truly believe that we will overcome this together. And as much as it sucks, it's also a really cool thing to know that film photography is very much still alive and growing as the community continues to expand and the demand for film keeps going up. It's making it so this is not just a small niche community, and this is growing beyond just some little temporary trend. So it's really cool to be a part of, and it's really great to know that despite the easy access of digital photography, that people still choose film over anything. I know I said last time that I'd like to talk about my film camera collection. That's exactly what I'm going to be doing today. Starting off with the Canon AE1. This is actually my first film camera that I ever bought. As I said in my shooting film at the fair video, just the experience and the memories that I tie to this camera are so profound for me with my film photography career. I do own the AE1 program, so that means that it's basically a point and shoot if you want it to be. However, I do not use it that way. I usually shoot manual, but I technically have 4 total lenses for it. I have the 50mm 1.8, the 24mm 2.8, I have the 35 to 105 3.5, and then I have the 100 to 200mm 5.6 lens. I really only use the 50mm 1.8. I sort of acquired the other lenses just because they were cheap at thrift stores, and I was just like, why not have a variety just in case I ever decide that I want to have different focal lengths. But for the most part, I stick to the 50mm 1.8. I think it's just a very standard focal length that's good for any sort of situation. Next, I have the second film camera that I ever bought. It was a few months after I bought my Canon AE1. I wanted to try it out medium format, and the only camera that I wanted was the Mamiya 7.2 with the 80mm f4 lens. This camera is the most beautiful thing that I've ever seen in my life. I bought it for around 3 grand. Now it's probably upwards of 6, which is crazy to me because I bought it only 3 years ago. I've taken this camera across the country with me. It's a great medium format camera that is very compact. I'm sure everyone already knows this, but it shoots the 6x7 format. Also with my Mamiya 7.2, I do own the 35mm panoramic adapter, which I've featured on this channel before. The reason why I bought this was because I wanted a Hasselblad X-Pan really bad to shoot panoramic 35mm film, but I didn't feel like dropping another 3 grand on a film camera, so I realized that there was a panoramic adapter for the Mamiya 7, which I bought, and it's essentially the same thing. Mamiya 7 is definitely my favorite film camera that I own. The next camera that I own is the Yaschica Mat-124 G. Essentially, there are 2 lenses on this camera. One of them is for the viewfinder, and then the other one is the actual lens that imprints on the negative. I've only shot like 2 to 3 rolls through it, but the lens on this thing is extremely sharp, and I love the results that I've made with this. It is a 6x6 format, which isn't my favorite. I'm not a huge fan of the square look, but I do like how you get a total of 12 images on each roll of film. It's definitely more cost effective, but I also love having at least one camera with every format. The next camera that I'll be going over is the Yaschica Electro 35 GSN. This camera is an aperture priority rangefinder 35mm film camera. I've only shot 1 roll of film through this, because the back door of this camera it doesn't seem like it closes all the way. I have heard that this camera has the potential to produce a lot of light leaks, which could be good if you're looking for that sort of thing, but in every sort of scenario, I don't think I would be using this camera. I simply bought this camera because I wanted an alternative 35mm camera that was a rangefinder, didn't feel like buying a Leica. The cool thing about this camera is it's also the camera that Peter Parker used in The Amazing Spider-Man, so that's also pretty cool. But overall, I really do love the build and feel of this camera. The next camera that I own is the Zeiss Ikon Contessa 35. This camera was actually my grandfather's that he gave to me. A really cool thing about this camera is it's really small, really compact. You could literally fit it in your pocket. This camera also has a 45mm 2.8 Zeiss lens attached to it, and the lens folds inside of the body. I did try to shoot a roll of film through this camera one time, but the winder got jammed or something. I don't know exactly what happened, but it literally ripped my film roll in half. Maybe I don't know how to use this camera. Maybe it's just old and doesn't know how to wind properly, but you know, maybe another day I will try again. The next camera is a Zeiss Ikon Contax. This camera was also gifted to me from my grandpa. It's a very stylish looking camera from the 1930s. It's also a rangefinder, and it has a 50mm 1.5 lens. It's also Zeiss glass. I've never actually shot a roll through this camera either, but perhaps I'll make a future video going through these two retro cameras. And the last camera, which is my most recent camera that I picked up, is the Mamiya 645 Super. I was doing a lot of research on 645 cameras because I like the fact that you get 15 shots to a roll. It was between this camera and the Contax 645. I decided that I wanted to go with this camera because I liked how versatile it was, being that you can switch out the viewfinders and you could also take off the winder and add the hand grip to it. I bought this camera with the 80mm 1.9 lens, which a lot of people say it's the fastest medium format lens out there. I also own the 150mm f3.5 lens to get a good focal length variety. Anyways, thank you guys for tuning into Analog Bebop today, just hanging out and listening to me spew my guts over cameras. I appreciate all the support. So anyways, peace out. Okay, so here's the deal. I'm going to be giving away a Yaschica G Electro 35. It is a aperture priority camera, basically a poor man's Leica. But all you have to do is comment on this video and you will be entered into this giveaway, and I will be announcing the winner on the very next video. So stay tuned, leave a like on this video, leave a comment, share it with whoever, and see you guys soon. Let's be real, most of these cameras are just paperweights and they just look cool.